Friends, we are very happy to inform you that e-modules are prepared for B.Ed program at Telangana by the School of Education, Osmania University under Pandit Madan Mohan Malaviya National Mission on Teachers and Teaching Scheme MHRD New Delhi. It's indeed our pleasure to share with the teacher educators and the prospective teachers and get maximum benefit out of it. It's a first of its attempt by us. We continue to add many more such lessons to share with you all.
Today we are going to look at academic freedom as functions of school, and as a part of this 15 minutes or presentation, I am going to introduce you to the idea of freedom in teaching, learning and education in the school system. As a result, over the next 30 minutes, you will be able to kind of engage with this presentation for 15 minutes and possibly be able to do much more follow-up work. Define various aspects. You will be able to summarize, explain academic freedom, freedom of learner and learning. We are going to look at indoctrination in detail, and hopefully this presentation will help you to reflect on your own indoctrination and how you bring your indoctrination into the classroom to impact the child. By the end of this module, each participant will have the opportunity to understand academic freedom as a function of school, explore the broad spectrum of applications, demonstrate competence, evaluate academic freedom in comparison to other functions, explore the various avenues for its application, where can you apply academic freedom, where you should not apply academic freedom, then articulate the implications of academic freedom and what you can look as an advantage and what can be a disadvantage and what you need to leave out. And the first aspect of academic freedom is indoctrination. And indoctrination starts in childhood, inculcating ideas, attitudes, strategies, methodologies, ideologies into the child, dogmas into the child. And humans' interaction in social environments ensures that they are shaped by cultural context. Nobody can escape this. Our culture determines how we think, how we feel. It kind of determines our conditioning and how our parents think, how our family thinks and feels, our friend circle, our extended family. All this is impacting the child all the time. And conditioning has a remarkable role. But it also has a function in forming stable communities of shared values. It's not all negative. People of shared values, when people share values with each other, they come together as communities. So that is also required. So indoctrination is a process of conditioning through the school environment. But when this kind of conditioning happens through the school, we call it indoctrination. And I'm going to take you deeper into what is called as concurrent curricula. This was described by Posner, and he looks at, we kind of briefly touched base with this in the conservative and the progressive systems, but here we're going to talk about in great detail. So the official curriculum is your syllabus, the operational curriculum is your lesson plan. The hidden curricula is taught but not with the intention. This is the hidden curricula is the indoctrination. Then there is extra curriculum like taking children out and a lot of the things that we talked about in the revolutionary functions kind of fit in the extra curriculum. Then there is a null curriculum. So according to Posner, no matter how good a teacher you are, no matter what you teach, no matter how well you teach it, you cannot teach everything. That is what he says. He says you can't teach everything. That is why it's called null curriculum. Null means, kind of zero. So what is the curriculum that is zero? The part of lived experience that you are not able to provide the child. So if you look at school and teacher and academic freedom, and you look at how the concurrent curricula can be put to use and employed in the classrooms. There are several ways in which teachers can fall back. They can lose their academic freedom. Teachers may be punished for failing to submit lesson plans. This happens all the times. If you use your academic freedom, schools may have final authority to review and assign grades. It may not be in your hands at all. Schools may have legal right to refuse or rehire a teacher because of disagreement over teaching methods and philosophy. So you might come up with this wonderful method and philosophy, but the school may not want to allow you back to be able to teach again. So academic freedom is broader in colleges than public schools. However, some of these concepts can be applied to our Indian situations, and we've got to pick and choose what is appropriate for us. So the principles of school and academic freedom come from Robert M. Hutchins' work and his philosophy. He talks about freedom of inquiry, freedom of discussion, freedom of teaching. Without these, a university cannot exist. Then this particular idea about a university got filtered and entered into the school systems in the United States, and that is how academic freedom is talked about popularly now. So what is academic freedom? It is basically the conviction, the belief that freedom of inquiry is essential, that asking questions, asking the right questions, asking appropriate questions, asking questions that are beneficial for students, for their growth and development, it is essential to the mission of academy and teaching and learning. And teachers are also scholars. That is what academic freedom believes. It believes teachers are scholars and they should have freedom to teach, to communicate ideas or facts without being targeted. Just because a teacher taught something, the teacher should not be targeted. The teacher should be allowed that academic freedom to kind of connect her or his own lived experience to the child's learning. They should not be repressed, they should not lose their job, they should not be put in prison, like external politics, political groups should not get involved in all of this. So teachers should be allowed to work in all freedom. Now this may or may not be possible in India. In most cases it may not be possible, so it is up to you as a teacher to pick and choose what you think is right, because a lot of these things may not be possible in India. So you got to figure out what is possible for you. There won't be one answer for this question. Everybody is going to have to find their own answer in different situations. So if you look at the principles, school and academic freedom involves Bloom's taxonomy, where a teacher creates learning, whether in the syllabus, whether in the curriculum, levels of curricula, or in the instruction, the learning environment that the child is in. The teacher has to kind of take the child from lower order knowledge to higher order evaluation. The teacher has to engage the child with knowledge, then enable the child with knowledge to kind of create comprehension, deep understanding, summarizing, demonstration through discussions. What we typically do in our Indian systems right now is only knowledge, because recall of information from memory, right? Memorization, naming, locating, listing, this kind of stuff we do. But the teacher has to take the child from there to the next level of understanding, then to the level of application, using and applying knowledge, using problem solving, designing, experimenting and all that kind of stuff. And then finally, and then next step into analysis, identifying, analyzing patterns, organization of ideas, recognizing trends, then allowing for synthesis to happen, using old concepts to create new concepts, allowing the child to do their original work, doing creativity, predicting, combining things, composing things, finally allowing the child to evaluate everything. allowing the child to compare and contrast, evaluate their own outcomes, allow children to judge, to think critically, to rate things, to assess theories, to figure out where they could not do certain thing and how they can do it better, the next time they do it. And Bloom's taxonomy also has to be used when you make a lesson plan. So when you make a lesson plan, you have to incorporate all these 6 levels in your lesson plan. So basically your operational curriculum needs to have 6 levels. So you have to take a child from knowledge to evaluation in every session. That is what Bloom's taxonomy talks about. Now, academic freedom really means freedom of inquiry. To be able to probe according to one's own interest, knowledge, conscience, and basically link to the freedom the scholar has as a part of that process and state its results. So, it is looking for the teacher to become a scholar, to be a scholar, be a teacher and also be a scholar. And in the United States, a lot of teachers do research. They kind of participate in what is called as action research and qualitative research, quantitative research, critical research, art theory research. They do a lot of research, which is why they don't have compiled textbook. They don't have textbooks like us. The system is very different. They have full academic freedom to create their own curriculum from frameworks. Now that is not possible in India. So we have got to pick and choose how we will implement academic freedom in small ways in our classrooms. So there are several types of academic freedom. Academic freedom can come from teaching. You can involve academic freedom in teaching. You can involve academic freedom in research. You can involve academic freedom in service also. So how do you as a teacher bring service into your working approach? How as a researcher you bring academic freedom into your working approach? All this matters. Now typically in the Western environments, teacher load consists, their job description consists of teaching, research and service. But in India, because research and service are not so much components, you will have to figure out how you will involve them, how you will involve teaching and research along with service into whatever you do. Perhaps take what you already have in terms of job responsibility and divide them into these 3 categories. Make connections between the 3 categories and figure out how you can create freedom for yourself as a teacher. Because if you want to use a new type of pedagogy, I'm sure the school where you work is not going to stop you. If you want to use a new method in your classroom, the school is not going to stop you. So there is some leeway for teachers in India to use pedagogy, to use methods, to kind of apply. Scholarship, your job may or may not give you an opportunity, but definitely improving teaching, that aspect of academic freedom is there in India. So I hope all of you kind of put that to use. Now there are several advantages and disadvantages of this. So for academic freedom to happen, drastic shifts need to happen in school, and it requires push, momentum, effective learning outcomes, and all that has to be measured using Bloom's taxonomy. Academic freedom can be utilized towards improving processes and outcomes for all stakeholders. Parents, teachers and school management become equal stakeholders, which is a very good thing. Innovation in education and learning becomes beneficial for the whole community. Now if these are the advantages, what are the disadvantages? If teachers do not have the know-how, then this cannot be implemented. Research and development cannot happen. Academic freedom requires an ability to develop emotional development at a fast pace. So teacher needs to have a lot of emotional development. And there might be resistance from many quarters. The teachers themselves may not be interested, or the school management may not be interested. The stakeholders involved have to have high levels of commitment. The school has to be committed to the teacher's growth, the teacher has to be committed to his or her own growth and the school's growth, and the parent has to be supportive of this kind of learning. Now, how do you apply academic freedom as a function? You can do projects that are community based, solidly rooted in local cultural and social practices. You can give assignments to children connected to real life problems that will allow students and teachers to develop a voice and express their views. When students themselves learn to exercise academic freedom at school, then they are kind of able to connect back to their community and larger society and look at the problems in society and solve those problems. Teachers and students develop ownership of school, community and learning when academic freedom and freedom of speech are involved. And newer innovations in practice and learning are possible from time to time. And I'm going to use the same image again, the same image that you kind of saw in the revolutionary function as an extension of the progressive function. So academic freedom as a function of school, again it has local to global context, it involves innovative pedagogy like design thinking, it is interdisciplinary, very learner centered, based in inquiry, asking questions, a lot of questions. It is totally based in inquiry and using community as the classroom. And with that we kind of complete all the 5 functions of school. Thank you.